have the floor for 6, and I understand you wish to split your time. Over to you.
Auditor, thank you very much for being here today. Did Canadian taxpayers get value for money from Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's government on the $60 million ArriveCan app?
So we concluded that the public service did not ensure that Canada received best value for money. I would tell you that we paid too much for this application.
You described it as the Trudeau government having, quote, glaring disregard for management practices, end quote, and poor record keeping, a lack of basic due diligence, and that you were, quote, unable to determine the precise cost of the ArriveCan app, end quote. So $60 million is an estimate. Is that correct?
Yes, we estimated that it cost around $59.5 million. There could be amounts there that should not be linked to ArriveCan, but there also could be amounts that are linked to ArriveCan that were not flagged in the books and linked to that project.
So it's reasonable to say that it could be more than $60 million.
It's reasonable to say that we've put together the best estimate, but it took a lot of effort. We had to go through many journal entries all the way back down to task authorizations to see whether or not items were linked to ArriveCan. Professional judgment was needed, yes.
Right, and just to quote the key facts from your report, it says, quote, this made it impossible to accurately attribute costs to projects, end quote, with respect to the poor record keeping. You've been investigating billions of dollars in government spending over your tenure as Auditor General. Would you say that the Trudeau government's ArriveCan is the worst that you've seen?
So I looked at a lot of contracting that happened during the pandemic when the public service was asked to act quickly and serve the public. This would probably be the first example that I've seen where there is such a glaring disregard for some of the most basic and fundamental policies and rules and controls.
Okay, I'll turn it over to Mr. Berchtold, please.
Mr. Berchtold, vous avez 30 minutes.
3 minutes, 3 seconds, Mr. Berchtold. Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you, Ms. Hogan, for your report. I want to say first that I'm shocked and scandalized by the way the government of Prime Minister Trudeau has acted. And I quote your press community. You talk about glaring disregard for management practices with regard to the management of ArriveCan. Now, there was a motion moved by the Conservatives, and we would not be here today and to actually examine the practices of government, and the Liberal members of Parliament voted against the inquiry. And here today we're seeing troubling outcomes. Now, Canadians, did they get value for money with ArriveCan? Our understanding is that the value received is not in keeping with funds spent. The government paid too much for the application, and there are a number of reasons to support this observation. The ongoing dependence on external contractors, the lack of justification as to why it chose a given contractor, and why always call upon resources with 10 years of experience or more. Now, the documentation did not show why it was the right decision, and even with, the lack of competition, the processes, we believe that Canadians did not get value for money. Ms. Hogan, you said that concerning the application, you cannot calculate the exact cost because of record keeping. Is it possible that the ArriveCan app cost even more than what you've determined? It's possible that it might have cost less because the bookkeeping I looked at is the worst I've seen in years. The lack of information to support the work done, if it is actually tied in with ArriveCan, I've been left perplexed. And I cannot give you a more exact figure. And I don't know why it's come to that. the record keeping should have existed, and public service in the past has done a lot better. Ms. Hogan, in all of your experience with all of the files you've worked on with your team, would you have ever imagined having found in Canada's public service under this government as bad an example of this glaring lack of accountability? It is surprising to see the extent to which the most basic elementary policies were not followed when it came to managing ArriveCan. Might you ever have thought that you'd not be able to identify who had awarded a contract of, more than $19 million to an external firm? Well, the decision who took the decision, or the evidence to show who took that decision, is lacking. But we have found a description of the work, the requirements to award the contract, and that comes from a ministerial directive. When a public servant exercises their delegated authorities by signing the request, it's accompanied by responsibilities. And I would have expected that if the public servant was uncomfortable, did not want to sign the document, they would have asked their superior or put in the file the reasons for this. But the record keeping is very slim, and important and elementary decisions were not well documented for the procurement file. Thank you, Mr. Berthold.